And I guess at that point we can walk over here. This is kind of the whole processing area. So a guy will be standing over here on this platform here, and we'll put the pallet of boxes on the easy loader there, so nobody has to bend over. That thing is pressure or controlled by air pressure. So as you're taking boxes off, it stays at the same level, so there's no bending over, hurting your back. But the boxes are dumped one at a time onto the first sorting belt here. And here we'll have people standing on each side of this table. And what we're doing here is cluster sorting. So when we're sorting the clusters, you know, the guys are pulling out leaves. They're pulling out clusters that might have too many raisins. But basically any cluster that doesn't look great, you know, gets sorted out here before the grapes are conveyored up into this machine, which is our destemmer. So if you've ever wondered how you get the grapes, have you ever seen the inside of one of these? I'm sure you have. But I'll get the
I have, but the viewer might not have.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of cool. There's a hopper in the front where all of the grapes fall into. And then that whole outer cage with the holes in it, that's all spinning around. And then that inner kind of helix, it's spinning around in the opposite direction. So those little fingers basically gently beat the berries off of the cluster, off of the rachis. That's what the name of the skeleton of the cluster is called, all that green stem. It's called the rachis. So the berries will fall through the holes, and then the rachis, being an odd shape, will get screwed out the back. So that's how we remove about 90% of all of the green matter from the clusters is with this machine. So a very, very important machine. This is our vibrated Trinchero table. It's a shaking table. And the berries fall down here, and this whole thing is shaking. Nobody's standing around this. This is like an automated shaker or sorting table. But the berries, they kind of level out into make an even kind of one layer of berries, and all the berries are kind of bouncing along. And then through these grates here, any juice that may have leaked out during the destemming process, any raisins, a lot of raisins will fall through the cracks. Any shot berries or shattered berries, those are berries that didn't pollinate properly in the vineyard, so they might just be little green, stumpy little berries. They will fall through. And just the berries, the nice berries, are kind of bouncing along the top. This machine is great for a few reasons, because we collect the juice underneath that leaks out. If you guys are familiar with the process called saignée, that's a French word to bleed. And it's a way that we make more concentrated wine. And if you remove juice from the fermentation tank, it concentrates the juice that's left behind inside that tank. So most people are doing their saignée in tank.
Right.
When the grapes have, or the wine at that point, or must, has already had some skin contact time.
Right.
I get to maximize the use of my saignée because I'm removing that juice before it even gets any skin contact time whatsoever. Just full berries are kind of bouncing along here until we get to the last sorting belt. And people are standing on each side of this sorting belt, and remember I mentioned about 90% of all the green matter is removed from the destemming process. Here we're removing by hand the other 10% of green matter that may be left behind. So just a flat...
How many people on this build?
We've usually got 3 people up here and 3 people down there, and then 1 person dumping grapes and another guy washing boxes. You know, so 8 people generally to run the entire processing area. And we do about 2.5 tons an hour. You know, so it's a really, really slow, tedious process. You know, most wineries, ultra premium wineries even, that are picking in big half-ton bins, you know, those bins get dumped into an auger that screws the grapes directly into a destemmer,
Sure.
and then those must gets pumped right into the tank. You know, that's the fast, cheap way to do things.
Right.
You know, and you can process, you know, 25, 30 tons an hour, you know, that way.
Right.
This way, you know, much, much more slow, much more gentle.
Very hands-on.
Very, very hands-on.
Yeah. So now this is all pretty raised up, and I know we're gonna go walk into the tank room and whatnot, but we're on kind of an upper level here.
Yes.
So
yeah.
are you using gravity to your own advantage?
Yes.
From this pump here?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, the most crucial stage in the processing is when it's must.
Right.
You know, it's all juice, and juice is very perishable. Skins and seeds, they're all mixed in with the must. So when you're pumping or when you're moving the juice, that's when you're crushing skins, you're crushing seeds.
Sure.
When the fermentation starts, all those skins float to the top and all the wine is underneath. So you can pump that wine and not worry about getting any skins or seeds in your pumps.
Right.
So with this process, it's a positive cavity, progressive cavity pump. So there aren't any gears inside. It's gently pushing the must into a cavity, which is going into a tank.
Right.
And yes, we are elevated above ground here, so there's no back pressure. It's a very gentle horizontal movement
Right.
into whatever tank we want to go to. And then we have screens inside of our tanks that will prevent skins from getting into the pumps when we're doing our first pump overs.
Wow.
So it is very, it's not, so I've made wine in a lot of different places, and I've made some really awesome wine without all of this machinery here.
Sure.
You know, so it's not the one thing that makes or breaks a wine, but it's just really nice to have it. And then there's Mother Nature. You know, she's the
Right.
She's the one that really everybody has to like bow to. You know?
The witch in the business.
Well, that's why it's not Papa Nature.
Because Papa would just let everything happen so nicely. Papa just let you in. So head on in.
Okay, thank you.
There you are. So we'll see. We're just going to kind of watch our signals there and make sure that we're still pretty money. And we're going to pop into the tank room here. Typically, you'd hear maybe a guy moving around and some action in here, but you can hear it's pretty cavernous today. And so we'll kind of talk in our inside dialogue voices so we don't get all bellowy as we're in here. So I guess just take us through. You've brought in the juice, and that's been brought to these tanks. And I see some pipes running off to the side here. So are you using those pipes to move the wine along the way?
Those in the middle are must pumps. But yeah, and then all the dimples that you see on the tanks, those are cooling jackets that I was mentioning before. So the must will hit the tank and we'll turn those jackets on just to maintain the must temperature at about 40-45 degrees. And then another great thing that this winery has that most wineries don't, you see that the tanks are jacketed from top to bottom, all those dimples. The top two jackets are for cooling. If you can see, there's that bottom jacket that's about a foot in width, and that's a heating jacket. So I can actually cool or heat any tank to any temperature that I want to. So that's really nice because after the cold soak is over, when that temperature is starting to warm up, usually you have to wait naturally for the temperature of the must to warm up to 55-60 degrees before you can inoculate with yeast.
Sure.
Because you'll kill the yeast population if you try to throw yeast into 45-degree must. You know?
Right.
And that process, especially if it's cold outside, it can take 2-3 days for that temperature to naturally go up. And during that time, you can get, VA growing on top. You can get, microbes that just start to smell bad. I can turn that heating jacket on, and within 24 hours, have the temperature of that tank up to 60-65 degrees,
right,
and inoculate. So there's no downtime where it's like in limbo. Where it's not cold enough to prevent microbial growth, but it's not warm enough to inoculate yet.
Right.
So having that heating jacket, it's just really, really special.